the traffickers are, I have to adapt to.
Yeah.
So that's where adaptive operations.
Yep. Okay.
That's where
It's awesome.
And you're not limited by any agency. You do what you got to do.
How did you go from the intellectual part, learning about this in the books, and then actually becoming an operator, so to speak? Where did that transition happen?
Excellent question. Wow. Yeah. So I was going to be in DC helping. I used to be a political scientist. My undergrad was in political science, organizational communications, and public relations. And just to give you a sense of how my mind works, at BYU, Idaho, I went through and started dissecting the courses that I wanted. I was looking through all disciplines. I want this course, this one's. And I discovered that there were 3 different disciplines that used almost all of the same classes. And with 2 extra semesters, I could fulfill all the requirements for 3 disciplines. So I went ahead and just started it. And then at 70 credits, I went and talked to the administration and said, with 2 extra semesters, I'm going to fulfill all the requirements for organizational communications, public relations, and criminal justice, and political science. What are you going to do? Are you going to give me 3 degrees? Let me graduate with 3 degrees? Yeah. And they said no. They said I would have to start over on each of those and retake the classes.
Yeah, there's too much money, and
it was a money
do it all at once.
Yeah, right.
Come on now.
To their credit, they created a new curriculum a new discipline for me and gave me 3 clusters.
Okay.
And so that's why I said my undergrad was in political science, organizational communications, and public relations.
Okay.
So that kind of thinking is where all this came from. Okay. In my master's degree in intelligence, I was one of the few civilians in that curriculum. All my peers were intel analysts all over the world, and my focus was on political science back then. And I was going to go to DC, work for a congressman or a senator, and find a way and fight to make it so our counter-terrorism practitioners could be more safe and more efficient legislatively, whether it's creating new legislation or removing it. You know, that was what I was going to do. That was going to be my mission. And the more I studied foreign terrorist organizations, whether it was South, Central Asia, in the Middle East, or even Mexico, then I kept coming back to human trafficking. Human trafficking kept coming up. And I was seeing that foreign terrorist organizations were using human trafficking victims as like currency.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a direct money trade-off. Excuse me, but it was more of a reward for their generals.
Wow.
And people were, and it was straight up human trafficking, and these victims were being raped, and it was sex trafficking, labor trafficking, it was all of it together. And just kept coming back to it. And I started realizing that our counterterrorism practitioners are amazing. And there's a lot of them. Every police department has counterterrorism experts. Every agency, all the way up to the top of the government and even down to the lowest. And they're so good. Even in Las Vegas, they're kicking in doors likely on a monthly basis, stopping terrorist attacks. They're that good. So there's not very many terrorists compared to the amount of people countering it. There are absolutely terrorists that want to kill us. But we have a lot of people stopping it. Human trafficking is opposite. Those who are human trafficking is growing like this. Those of us who are actually countering human trafficking, we're growing like this. We're being outpaced. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? If I transition to human trafficking, I'm not going to need to be in DC. I do want to keep my family where we're at in St. George. And so I started transitioning more to criminal justice, and I thought, how am I going to use an intelligence master's degree and stay in Utah? And so I started investigating things like becoming a private investigator, doing bail enforcement, And he says, I never felt like I was supposed to join an agency anywhere. I've gone through trainings and made good friends in agencies, but I've always felt like I was supposed to be private. And then I found my own inroads. And one thing I learned about the criminal justice process is there's a lot of gaps. And the bad guys are exploiting the gaps. There's only certain things that law enforcement can do. We need law enforcement to stay within the realm of the Constitution, and they're beholden to by it. And it's a good and a bad thing, because the traffickers understand that as well.
Is part of your mission, would you say that the trafficking criminals are going like this, and the people that are combating it are barely growing? Is part of your mission to help get the recruitment of that type of that movement up? Is there something all of us can be doing to assist with that that we could do more of?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a matter of being understanding the right kind of awareness. There's this huge awareness right now going on because of the Sound of Freedom movie that came out. Unfortunately, as an in the field operator, I don't think it's helpful.
Okay.
It's possibly harmful for what I'm trying to do, because I've seen my organization plummet with the donation. I didn't get much anyway, like $500 to $700 a month is all my nonprofit gets anyway, because I'm so covert. But I saw the people are donating to something that they can't do anything about other than create attention, and it's creating this whirlwind that nobody knows what to do.
No solutions are being
Let me ask you this. I think in this whole human trafficking, and just tell me if I'm wrong, but this is my perspective, my opinion, is that it seems like, especially the last 10, 15 years in America, there's so much liberal ideology that has caused all these problems, mental illnesses. We see gender dysmorphia, or I don't know what you want to call it, confusion, the breakdown of the family structure, the demasculination of men, all of these problems, single mothers raising young boys who go out and commit crimes, all these problems that we're seeing happening in our country today. I feel like if we could get back to these solid, fundamental core values of families, good community, strong men protecting families, these kind of things, that those would solve a lot of these problems in our country. And if I understand correctly, America's the biggest consumer of a lot of this issue, right?
Yeah.
So am I right in assuming that if we can get down to those things and fix these problems, that a lot of the issues are going to go away simply because there's not as big of a market available for these issues?
Definitely. And with that, that's part of the message I wanted to bring to your audience today. And I don't want to end off on trashing on Sound of Freedom, because because it rolls into this. What needs to happen. So all your listeners that have watched the show, they feel heartsick, they don't know what to do. Don't turn to violence, whatever you do. There are men I've talked to that are like, you know what? I'm going for it. I'm going to go kick in doors. I'm going to head to the border.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't take that kind of a mindset, because that's what the traffickers want. That's what the bad guys actually want. The Gadiantons out there, they want that. What you can do, coming from somebody in the field, look to your family, look to your neighbors, your friends. If there is a man that's close to you that has recently lost their job, has gone through a divorce, gone through something tragic that will beat his self-value down, his self-worth, you need to lift that man. Because every man, woman, at some point has a moment in their time where And it happens often where you have to make a choice. Are you a predator or a protector?
Yeah.
The value in self-worth is where these men choose to become predators.
Yeah.
We are the largest consumer of child sex trafficking and pornography in the world. The United States is.
Yeah.
We need to be shoring up our men. We need to be inspiring them to become more solid.
Yes.
And to choose to become protectors. Why would you become solid?
Yeah.
To be a protector.
Yeah.
That's what you need to be. Make your body strong, your mind strong, your spirit strong.
Yeah.
And for what? To be a protector.
Yeah, and the way that's going to happen is strong men in the household. It reminds me of that scene in American Sniper, I think it is, where his son gets in a fight and he talks to his son about being a sheepdog, right, and protecting those people around him. And I think that's like a big catalyst in Chris Kyle's story. Am I right? That's the right movie, isn't it? American Sniper?
I don't remember.
With that, there's another really important part to kind of answer your last question too. With sheepdog, like we need to be protectors.
Yeah.
Of the flock.
Yep.
Because the predators out there don't care what color the sheep's clothing is.
Right.
Whether it's a white sheep, black sheep, or a rainbow sheep.
Right.
We have to be aware as sheepdogs on where the predators' inroads are.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the rainbow colored sheep,
Yeah.
the predators know they have easy inroads.
Of course.
And it's not the fault of the rainbow community.
Yeah.
It's that the predators just know how to exploit that.
Yeah.
And so we need to look out for that. I've gotten boys out of human trafficking that were caught up in this homosexual human trafficking group. One was in Portland, one was in Austin, and another was out in Miami.
Yeah.
Like, they need help too,
Yeah.
and they're vulnerable, especially these boys that get kicked out of their houses. When they're, I don't know what the right answer is for that family with those kind of things, but we as protectors need to recognize that anybody on the street is vulnerable. Boys, men, children. I work in the streets a lot, and I'll show you guys some things, some techniques, some things, because maybe one of your listeners will be that person that starts doing what I'm doing and doing it in the right way. I don't encourage it. It has to be a calling.
Yeah.
It's incredibly dangerous, and you got to be willing to have that conversation with your family because you might not come back from the missions.